Hi everyone, welcome to the next short attention span webinar. Today, Kelly, we're going to get better and betterer.
My favorite word.
Dumb and dumberer. We're going to talk about some ideas for improving yourself as a salesperson. So let's start off with number one. Interview the best salesperson at your office. It's funny, I'm trying to think about when I first started, Kelly, who the best rep was. I think it was probably my district manager, Al Polito. That's the guy that I just thought was so smooth. And just, emulating myself from him. Who was your best rep when you were first starting?
It would have been my sales manager, actually. He was the most successful. And so just spending, a good amount of time with him, I kind of learned a lot from him. But I also have to say that I also learned a lot of what not to do, too, just adapting my own style. So it really, it depends on the climate of each company individually, what that's going to look like. So in fact, it may not be a sales rep at your company. It could be a colleague at a different company. It could be a colleague at a vendor of yours, maybe your paper supplier, maybe, somebody that you do business with, someone you meet at a trade show, could even be a competitor, quite frankly. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to be said for friendly competition or co-opetition, as we like to call it.
Well, you can learn from everyone, right? I mean, the waiter that comes to your table is in sales. You're at a party and you walk away saying after a conversation, wow, I really feel good. What did that person do to make me feel so good? You're constantly learning. But I would certainly ask the sales reps in your office, how did you get here? What were your challenges? My guess is that you're going to hear them say something like, you know what, Bill? If I had known how hard it was going to be to get here, I might not have done it. It's a lot harder than I thought. And I'm thankful that I stuck it out. Because I've heard that one before.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, the self-help, the motivational CDs, you and I have talked about this in the past. I know that I've got one called, the positive mental attitude. Success, what's it called? Success based on positive, it's a Napoleon Hill. And yeah, success through positive mental attitude. And I love that because they're little short stories almost of people that have done something, have made something of nothing. There's a lot of sales stories in there. And I find that very motivational. Are you a CD person? Are you a reader? Where do you get your motivation from?
Well, I read a ton. And I think that a lot of the motivation doesn't even necessarily have to come from actually sitting down and reading a whole book, even though that can be a good idea. There are really, really well thought of kind of sales gurus going all the way back to like Zig Ziglar. There was one guy named Tom something or other that I can't remember his name, but he wrote a ton of books.
Hopkins.
Tom Hopkins, thank you. I did read a couple of his cover to cover. There's Anthony Vitello and his Vito series.
Right.
I think there are a lot of them out there. Folks, you can skim these. You can look at the table of contents and go to a chapter that you think is going to be really interesting and just glean one major salient point out of it. There's also a lot of great blogs out there, like yours, Bill. So there's a lot of places to get this information, even just reading like Malcolm Gladwell's series.
Right.
Because another thing about those is it makes you a more interesting conversationalist, too. You can kind of talk about some of the things that you've read in there and kind of relate those to some of the things you're seeing out there, and it just makes you a little deeper.
By the way, Kelly's blog is also on piworld.com. That's where both of us will appear, and we'd love to get feedback. Kelly, I noticed your last one, you had like 10 comments. I'm looking at that going, oh my God, how do I get 10 comments?
Half the comments were mine, Bill. I just responded to every single commenter.
Still counts.
Because one person just opened his comment by saying you're flat out wrong, which I love. I love when that happens.
So funny. I could see that. That's my pseudo name, actually. That was me.
You're wrong?
Yeah, that was no. The third one is to ask your clients for a critique. And I like this because oftentimes we don't hear the negative. All we hear is, oh, that was great, everything's great. And the next thing you know, we've lost the order or the client, and you just say, what happened? Where did the business go? They're not willing to tell you the negative.
Right.
So, I believe, and as it says up on my cork board above me, real communication happens when people feel safe. So, I want to be better at what I do. What can you suggest to me that I do better? That's a good one.
It is. And it's also making them understand that they're doing you a favor by communicating that with you, even if they think it's going to hurt you a little bit. And so it's important to kind of couch that with saying, we're in this together, and anything you tell me is only going to make me stronger. So don't let it. I mean, I kind of feel like we could do this with our friends too, because sometimes there's things I wish, you kind of know people think things about you, but there's no real way to convey that. So I kind of wish we were all a little more transparent in that way.
I hear you. I understand. In fact, I like the feedback cards. I was just looking around my desk. I had my car washed, and we got a feedback card when I pulled out. Every single time they want to know, how'd we do? I was in Phoenix last week at the AMSP conference, and we were talking to one of the participants there. He said, we get feedback with every single order. We solicit it with every single order. So our improvement is ongoing and constant. So as a company, you're asking for it. But with your clients, just talk about you as a salesperson as well. The fourth point is to run a doomsday scenario. And this sounds so counterintuitive, Kelly. How can a doomsday scenario make me better as a salesperson?
To me, this is all about preparation. It's all about asking yourself the question, what if the thing I'm the most afraid of happens and I lose my biggest piece of business? What are the things that I'm going to have to do to make up for that? How can I prevent it? Most importantly, how can I prevent that from happening in the first place? And just really kind of look at it from all aspects of, why would it happen? What could I do? Again, what could I do to prevent it? And what am I going to do to replace that if it happens? So again, to me, it's all about preparation and about thinking kind of 360 about all the different elements of something.
Agreed. And finally, scrutinizing your next sales call. So you're done with a call. The idea here is to go out to your car, sit down, and say, all right, so how did that go? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? That's what we're looking for on this one. For example, Kelly, did I listen enough? That might be a good question to ask yourself.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, I would go all the way back to, how prepared was I? Did I know the questions I was going to ask going in? Did I do what I went there to do, which is prove myself as a trusted advisor and someone who's a resource? Or did I just sit down and go, we've got blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. This is something that really, a lot of us have been doing this for a really long time. So it makes sense to stop and say, maybe I should just reconstruct this all entirely and say, what is it that this person wants to hear from me today? Why am I in the room? And walk yourself all the way through how it's going to happen, what you're going to say, and what you absolutely positively cannot leave the room without doing.
The other thing you might ask yourself is, what did I learn? What did I learn in that sales call? If the answer is nothing, you think to yourself, oh, there's nothing I needed to learn. No, the reason is probably because you talk too much. So, God gave you 2 ears and a mouth for one mouth for a reason. So do the math. All right, so there's some ideas on self-improvement. Lots of material on there on the internet that you can go seek out. Skills improvement, a lot of free stuff. Certainly we invite you to look at the sales resources page on the NAPL, which is basically where you are right now if you're looking at this video, unless you hacked it, you've downloaded it from YouTube or something. In any event, Ms. Malazzi, thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Bill.
And we'll talk to you all in the next Short Attention Span webinar.